Hello, everybody. Welcome to Faye's Angels, my first show. I am very happy to be with you today. I have a fantastic guest who is waiting in the back room. And before I get her on the show, I really just wanted to say hello, first of all, to Dan. Yes, he's saying, yeah, it's only Tuesday. Yes, we didn't mean to freak you out. This is my show, Dan. We have Faye's Angels, which is a spin-off of our shows Latino Psychic Vision and This Mug's for You. The reason we're having the whole premise of the show is to be able to, hi there, Herbie, is to talk a little bit more in depth about maybe some of the things that come up during our shows that we're not able to talk about because we have reads with individuals. They have their different questions and their different concerns. And it really made me think about, well, we need to talk about this maybe a little more in depth. And tonight's show is going to be have a guest on. She happens to be my daughter. And I'm going to talk before I get her on. I just wanted to also just say that I am very grateful for everybody who watches us every single Wednesday and Saturday. I love you and I consider you my angels. And I am happy that you're here tonight. I hope you share the show. I hope you find something that resonates with you. We are going to be talking about an autoimmune disease, specifically multiple sclerosis, which my daughter is dealing with, and hopefully you'll take away from the show something that is of merit for you. So here we go. I'm going to bring her in. Here we go. There she is. There's Tanya. Hello, Tanya. You're looking really great
There.
today. I love that you have this orange on.
Thank you.
Um,
It's on purpose.
it's on
Orange,
purpose. What's the purpose?
orange actually is the official color that, or the orange ribbon represents multiple sclerosis awareness. So, oftentimes, if you see advertisements or any sort of fundraising regarding multiple sclerosis, you'll see a little orange ribbon
Mhm.
or some sort of orange decal. So orange is the color to
And
just
quite in coincidence, there's no
yeah.
coincidence. I'm wearing this. I didn't know. I had a pink one set out, but here I am. I'm wearing orange too, and you showed up. So Tanya's in the office with us. She also lives in the same town we live in, and I get to see her a lot, which is awesome. And um, and I didn't, sometimes we do connect, telepathically. I think in what we wear, what we think. She's my daughter. Okay, she's my dot. I have two daughters. Tanya's the eldest, and she gives me great inspiration. I just want to give you a little intro. Maybe you guys haven't didn't see it. We promoted it on Facebook, but tonight we're going to be discussing Tanya's journey with multiple sclerosis, her insights and information. Tanya is an inspiration to me, and I know will be an inspiration to all of you. Um, so here we go. I just would like to say, everyone, please be open minded. I hope you share the show. And here we go. So, first of all, Tanya, um,
Yes.
first of all, could you kind of explain? Well, before I do that, I'm just going to see if I can get a little banner going. What is what is multiple sclerosis? What is MS? We're just going to say MS.
So multiple sclerosis, which is much easier to say MS, because especially sometimes when you have multiple sclerosis, it's hard to say.
Hmm.
Um, Multiple sclerosis, MS, is one of many autoimmune diseases, which still are shrouded by a lot of mystery in the scientific and medical world. Um, However, they all seem to have a similar um, theme to them, for lack of a better word, where the body, our own body, our immune systems, in one shape or another, will attack the cells of the body that shouldn't be attacked. Um, I don't know much about other autoimmune diseases, unfortunately, selfishly, because I don't have them. I've done a
It's
lot of
okay.
research on mine
Hmm.
and what MS specifically does, when it comes to the body being, we'll say, confused, going into what I usually refer to as overdrive. Um, an event, an illness, stress, stress is huge, will trigger the body to think that there is a reason to go into um, healing mode or fixing mode. And with multiple sclerosis, where the body gets confused, or where it specifically goes to, is the nerves, particularly what are called the myelin sheaths on the nerves. If you have a power cord, and I'm going to make some rustling noises, but this is a good illustration. Power cords have the outside insulation. This is a healthy myelin sheath. Messages are able to travel from one end to the other because there is this protective sheath on the outside of it. What happens with MS is my body, and those of us who have MS, starts to confuse that myelin, which is a protein, as a foreign bad thing. And it actually eats away this sheath, which then exposes all of these tiny wires that are in here and interrupts the flow from one neuron to the other. And the what's called demyelination can be severe, it can be mild, it can show up slowly over time, it can show up sometimes what seems like overnight. Um,
Okay. I really, that's perfect. I don't know if you're done there, but I want to, before we go further, I want to say a few hellos to a lot of people who are joining us tonight. I'm just really honored. We have Paul Francis is here. We have Herbie Lopez, Kathy Hanley. There's Lynn Fern and Loretta Sue. My gosh. Of course, Dan Lopez came in right away. Don Haddam. Wow. Thank you very much. Kelly, thank you for joining us. I would like to, we're gonna. I suppose we'll get a little more detail about how MS is as a little further along the show.
I
But
don't
I
want
would
to make
really
everybody
like.
fall asleep,
I
so
don't want to make anybody fall asleep. No, but here's how it went. Let's get back to 14 years
oh,
ago.
my Tegan.
Uh,
Hi, T. Thank
Oh,
you
hi,
so much
Tegan.
for being
Oh,
here.
sweetie, how are you?
Thank
And
you.
okay, so the issue of the discussion, Don, is we are discussing multiple sclerosis. And this is my daughter, Tanya, who was diagnosed with it 14 years ago and has been dealing with it ever since. Just one quick answer to the question, what kind of MS do you have?
I currently have what is called relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis.
Okay,
Um,
which
it
means,
was originally diagnosed as such for a short period of time. Post diagnosis, it actually um, changed to being what is referred to as benign MS, and that was when I had zero activity, um, zero damage, didn't need medication, was literally living, quote unquote, as though I did not have multiple sclerosis.
okay.
However, the underlying diagnosis that I have is relapsing remitting. There are other types. There is also progressive, um, and that is a much more aggressive form of multiple sclerosis.
Okay. And so, and I invite anybody in the chat room, please. Absolutely. Maria is Roger's daughter, and she
Hi,
says
Maria.
hello. And good to see you here tonight. If you have any questions, folks, please fire away too, because um, it's kind of, I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but I want to. Paul says that here's Paul Francis, our dear
Hi,
friend from.
Paul.
Uh, he says he has taught quite a few MS sufferers with meditation, and this helped them. And Tanya is shaking her, nodding.
Yes.
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 Um, we're going to get to this in a little bit. Dawn is asking, uh, have you tried any alternative medications or tools? I'm sorry you are going through this. I'll put you in my healing bubble. Thank you,
Thank you.
darling. That's wonderful.
I like
Any,
healing bubbles.
we appreciate all those things. Can everybody hear Tanya? I would just want to make sure everybody hears her. Sometimes you fade in and out a little bit, and I think it's about where the position of the mic might be. I don't know. But where I was going with, I would like to just kind of do a flashback to 14 years ago when you were diagnosed. But what were you experiencing? What made you go to the hospital?
Uh, so you just want me to talk about the physical?
Yeah, I want you to
Okay.
how you felt. Yeah, I mean anything you want to bring. I mean, but I was thinking of physical.
I think it's important that I also talk about what was happening in my life on a, the full picture of what was going
Yes.
on,
Yes.
because
Feel
that's
free.
crucial to
Yes.
understanding specifically MS. Um, so this goes back to the late spring, early summer of 2007. And I started to notice that the the bottom of my right foot was tingling numb, kind of like what you feel when your foot falls asleep or your hand falls asleep. But I
Mhm.
couldn't shake it like you would and, wake it up and get it to come through.
Mhm.
What was simultaneously occurring in my life was the divorce of my mom, Faye, from her second husband. Um, my brother dealing with some ongoing personal issues that were heartbreaking to the family. My partner at the time, who did later become my husband, was dealing with some major health issues that were mysterious, and um, the really for me the last straw uh, was the discovery that um, mom was getting a divorce. I had been kind of climaxing up to a small nervous breakdown. And within a couple of weeks, over that summer, the tingling and numbness began to radiate up my right leg. At which point, I was referred to a chiropractor. So the chiropractor started seeing me. Um, did a couple of adjustments. I was feeling a little bit better. And then my, we'll just say ex-husband and I, went on a camping trip. And it was an old school tent in the woods camping trip. And we were at the campground and had to walk quite a distance to the Biffies if you had to opt for not using actual nature. And I think this is important, and forgive me if this is a little personal for everyone, but this is what
It's
made me
okay.
really scared.
We love transparency here on these shows.
I went to the loo, which is basically an echo chamber when you're in the woods in the middle of the night. And uh, I sat down, went to do my normal thing and to urinate, and I could not feel the sensation. I only knew I was because I could hear the sound of liquid on liquid. And that terrified me, and went straight back to the campsite, told my ex-husband. We packed up the next morning, shortened our vacation in camping so that we could go home, and I started making phone calls to the chiropractor. He
You
again,
also called me,
I also called you.
and you told me about the symptoms you were having. I was at
Yes,
work, and when you told me all of those things, of course, I am mist I believe in Mr. Google, so I Googled it,
yes.
and I don't know what all with using all those symptoms. I don't know what all came up, but one thing came up was multiple sclerosis, and I said, "Oh, please don't be that. Oh, that's not it. Oh, that's not it." Okay, I just
Right. So by Monday, I was no longer tingling from the bottom of just the bottom of my feet up my leg and to my groin. I was numb just below the bra line, and went into work. Didn't say much. Finally, that Friday, said something to my manager, and that was when she said, "Log off and go to the ER."
yeah,
So I followed instructions after a little bit of I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine.
yeah.
And after two MRIs and a spinal tap or a lumbar puncture, um, it was confirmed that I had multiple sclerosis.
So how was that message given to you?
Very poorly.
Yeah. And
Uh,
we can chuckle about it now because you've done so much work, right, honey?
right. Um,
Wh-
no,
Which,
this
which is
this
a doctor.
particular neurologist has zero emotional intelligence, which for a
Good.
neurologist is abysmal. Um, by the way, because of my ex-husband's illness, he couldn't handle staying in the ER. He had to go home and go sleepy
Okay.
sleepy. So I was alone in the hospital
Honey,
overnight.
I have to interject. Would you get closer to the microphone? Or get the microphone closer to
I
get it
keep
right in
moving
front
it
of you.
closer. I mean, I could be licking it at this point. Is that
That's
better?
not it. I actually lick my mic.
Okay.
Sorry, you have to
Can
bend over.
everybody hear me?
Yes, that's so beautiful. Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna have a little side swag here. Um, so I was all alone in the hospital overnight, and was after the two MRIs, middle of the night lumbar puncture, which was excruciating and terrifying because they put a hole in your spine,
Yeah.
take your fluid. Um, not really telling me anything. Nobody's telling me anything other than we're checking you in to the neurology ward. And
Didn't sound good to me.
that didn't sound good to anybody. So the neurologist comes in and does her preamble and then says, based on the results of the MRIs and the particular enzymes and proteins that were appearing in my spinal fluid, that I had multiple sclerosis. She said it was a 99% chance. And that this would be a good time for me, if I hadn't already, to write down my bucket list because I would have 5 years to complete it. I was
Yeah.
30 years old.
5 good years of your life left. Right.
5 years.
Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna let people chat a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's good to I'm going to start with Dawn. So, is MS a progressive genetic disorder or something that needs a catalyst like stress or trauma? That's a
Excellent
big question.
question, Don. The theories abound, and it is still an extremely mysterious disease.
Hmm.
It is not genetic. It is not something that a parent can pass on to their child. It is, like I said, an autoimmune disease. Typically, um, those of us who have MS suffered from some sort of uh, extremely aggressive disease in our youth, prepubescent. In my case, I had walking pneumonia, shingles, and mononucleosis within a matter of 3 months of each other when I was 12 years old. And um, many scientists believe that specifically the virus that causes mononucleosis lays dormant in the spinal column, waiting for something, a catalyst, to activate it, which is almost always, I'm going to say always, a significant stress, lifetime stress situation. And it doesn't matter if it seems stressful to someone else, if it's stressful to that human who has a dormant virus in their spinal fluid. That is one of the theories, is that the multiple sclerosis activates. Um, Other theories are that it is a psychologically induced, a trauma induced disease where the sufferer has uh, constantly, since childhood, um, learned a coping mechanism of tamping down feelings, emotions, um,
Yeah.
be they joy, anger, sadness, frustration, um, in situations where people are not free to express or don't feel comfortable expressing their true thoughts, their true emotions. The nervous system holds on to that, and it very well may end up being that this is a combination of the stress catalyst with there just being a breaking point where the body says you've been holding it in for way too long. Here we go. Welcome to the roller coaster.
So, herein lies a little lesson, just that first lesson of tamping feelings down. I mean, you were a child, and we were experiencing a a crazy life situation. It had to do. We can be honest here. It was a second marriage for me, and the guy I was married to, who changed immediately, in my view, after we got married. When it came to,
Before.
oh, was he before? Okay, well, I didn't notice it. He was incredibly strict with my daughters, and I tried to protect them. I tried to, uh, but anything would trigger him being angry. It was never physical. Well, maybe there was a spanking involved one time, but he was scary to the kids, and so Tanya just kept herself. I think she, every once in a while, blew her gourd. Can I say that? Every once in a while with me, you know, but, yeah, it was one of those situations where she had no control over. She had absolutely no control over. She had to go along with my ridiculous, uh, you know, decision, which I have worked hard on not feeling guilty about, and, anyway, so there's all those dynamics that children have. And, we're covering a lot of layers here of information, but right now, just because, she had tamped down her all of those things, which is not healthy. This is the deal. It's not healthy to do that, right? Can we all agree with that? Anyway, yes, and thank you, Dawn. Thank you for saying that. it does take courage to tell your personal story.
Yes, it does. And
It
thank you, Don. I was um well, I'll tell everybody here. I actually am on intermittent family medical leave right now, due to some other stressors in my life that have exacerbated my MS. And silly as it may seem, I was getting very anxious about this show and then had to remember that I've done this before. I've been on the show with Mom and Roger before. I just haven't been the one being interviewed. So,
Yeah,
thank you,
you're doing
Dawn.
great.
It does take some courage. And
Yes, it does.
I
It's a
consider
personal story.
myself to be a very courageous human being,
Mhm.
and have learned over time to be my best and greatest advocate. And I'm not very quiet about it anymore. Uh,
Well, can I interject something too?
mhm.
Uh, so I feel like all my kids are pretty remarkable, and I do want to interject this thought. Even though we were going through this stuff with this, the home life was a bit dysfunctional. Um, thankfully that person that was causing the stress did a lot of traveling, which was great.
Yes.
And when he was gone, life became happy because I could be with my kids by myself. And credit only to Tanya. Well, I have to give her credit. She excelled in school. She was part of the band. She had a huge social life. People loved her. She was no, she doesn't, she was, what's the word? Uh,
Overachiever.
well, yes, you were an overachiever, but you still also were very, when you were outside of the house, I think you really you shined.
Oh, because I was safe.
You were
Yeah.
safe and you were fantastic.
Yeah.
You were speeching, you were doing speeches, you were looked to
Whether
for
they
help,
wanted to hear it or not.
right? You coordinated events, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, I do wanna ask questions people have a little bit, go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
We're gonna probably jump around with, the timeline because people have questions, they just have questions. I just wanna, answer them. So Paul's asking here, "What have you found that helps relieve the symptoms?"
So every, this is something that I need to clarify for the audience, for anyone who does not have multiple sclerosis, because um, as there are multiple forms of multiple sclerosis, um, even those of my fellow warriors who are fighting or living with, I prefer to say living with, um, multiple sclerosis, the relapsing remitting, experience different symptoms depending on which myelin sheath is being destroyed. So
That's a good point. Go into
mine
that a little more. Go
mine
ahead.
are, I'm looking in the camera, so I'm confused. I have to look down. So I have lesions on the back of my spine, right at the base of where the spinal cord comes out of the brain. Um, I have lesions on, if Trevor was here, he would know. They are on the left side of my brain. That the rational part of your brain where my speech is. I have a small lesion, so I lose words, which is also genetic.
Yeah, I
So,
gave that to her.
um,
Oh, there.
I do find that it gets it gets worse when I'm stressed or excited.
Uh,
Um, so just so everybody understands that what I experience is not the same as what a friend of mine that I personally know who has MS, relapsing remitting, experiences. With my symptoms are typically mind fog, where everything up here just really slows down. And specifically the logical thinking. Um, my right brain has always been a very active, very creative. That doesn't seem to slow, but the parts where you need to be logical and think through problems and 2 + 2 = 4, those types of things start to diminish during times like now when I'm a little off. I also suffer from severe debilitating fatigue, and severe debilitating anxiety, to the point of panic attacks. Um, uh, and lastly, the physical, other than the fatigue, the physical is a persistent tingling in the bottoms of my feet. So where my first physical symptoms appear tend to be where that starts to give me a warning. I've now learned that the tingling on the bottoms of my feet is a heads up from my body that it's about ready to start an attack. It's about ready to go to war, and I need to slow down. In very difficult times, if I don't listen, my mouth will go numb, my tongue will go numb. Tingling, not numb, I can speak, but it feels very strange. So what I do, Paul, is I have found that yoga is a profoundly healing practice for two reasons. Started it mostly for strength. I began doing Noom in the middle of the pandemic, which is a health platform that was put together specifically during the pandemic for people who wanted to lose weight, get fit, eat better, live more healthy. And all of the exercises they were requiring of me were not possible because of my disease. I can't get overheated. It exacerbates the disease. So running, doing really crazy cardio is not a good thing.
And so activity in the sunshine and heat are extremely, you have to watch where you sit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be under shade
Yep.
usually, right?
Yep.
And if it's above what degrees, like 85, or is that all hot for you?
Uh, Here in the Midwest, because they go together. If it's hot, it's humid, right?
Right.
Anything once, I mean, the older I get, and the longer I have this, once we get close to 80 degrees and the humidity is anything above 15%, 15%,
Mhm.
um, I better be just sitting in the shade.
Okay.
Nothing that is going to involve a lot of
So
um,
I'm going to interject a thought
working.
too, because I found it when I was doing my own research on MS. When you first got it, I thought, well, who gets this? I mean, did I give it to you? That was my first question, and then I said, as you said, no, and then who typically gets it? Is it women? Is it people who are of okay,
Oh, good question.
live in the north? Is it because we don't have as much sunshine? I'm gonna let you go from
Yeah,
there.
great
So,
question. Yes. Um, we got we got the world, whole wild world behind me, behind me.
yeah,
Uh,
good show,
so
good
this is
demonstration.
hard to do. The that part right
The
here.
the southern part,
Okay, hold on. I just got so
that's
here.
Africa.
Okay, right. So we got anything down below the equator at a certain point, and anything above the equator at a certain point. So you've got the globe, the equator, and the further you are from the equator, it is found, and scientists are still a little baffled by this, that there is a higher occurrence of multiple sclerosis. Um, And the theory of that, which I really strongly believe is true, is the further you live from the equator, the shorter your days get towards the middle of the year,
Right.
end of the year. You know what I mean?
Now, for example, now.
Well, I mean, it's different on the southern hemisphere, but
Oh, sure.
if you're living basically along a certain latitude,
Latitudes, yes.
above the equator, the um, prevalence of multiple sclerosis is much higher. And the reason being is lack of vitamin D. You're not getting a consistent amount of vitamin D like you would if you lived, say, in Georgia or Florida or um, Southern California, Texas. Um, and that vitamin D is a crucial vitamin for people who have multiple sclerosis.
Do
It
people, is it more, sorry, but is it more prevalent in women or
Yes,
men
it is
of,
also more prevalent in women.
and is it prevalent in Caucasians, white folk
Uh,
like
It
you
it
and me?
isn't. Um, that is the um, it is not a Caucasian centric
Okay.
thing. So actually, one of my former coworkers at my last job was an African American male,
Okay.
and he had much more significant damage. He had relapsing remitting, but the damage had started very aggressively, very fast, and it it affected him profoundly. So
Okay.
I would say yes, it is scientifically it has been proven that it is more prevalent in women. Uh, but that's not to say that men don't suffer from it, and it's also it doesn't care what the color of your skin is.
Okay.
It's gonna find you if
It's
you. I
going to
mean,
find you whether, yeah, what color you are if
yeah,
you're in those areas, specific,
and and
predominantly.
when you're not aware of your emotional, um, when maybe you are aware of your emotional state, but you're unwilling or unable to express it in a healthy manner.
Right. Right. Which is true. Okay. We have people who are coming in and saying hello and hi Decky. Hi Aaron K. Good to see you. Lynn Fern is thank you
Aaron?
for, no, it's not, I don't think it's Aaron, our Aaron, your
No, I
sister.
know who it is.
Oh, you do. It's
Yes.
another Aaron.
Yeah.
Lovely. Um, thank you for opening your heart to everyone here about what you have and are still going through, and a very, very courageous thing to do. I'm grateful to you and your mom for discussing this tonight. Well, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I really wanted Tanya in, as I feel it's very significant Tanya's on my first show because we get together because we live in the same village now. We get together quite often, chat for lunch, and uh, sometimes I don't know who the parent is. It's like she inspires me, and hopefully I inspire her. It's like I learn a lot from her, and just because of what she has researched and searched for and does introspection. She challenges herself all the time, and so she inspires me to do the same thing. She gives me courage as well. I mean, I have a wonderful husband right now, I have to say. I mean, I'm going to keep him. And and he um
And she's not just saying that because he's in the building.
oh, my husband is right now tutoring me, so sorry. He says I look bored when I have my hand on my chin. Do I look bored?
No.
Okay. Oh my God. He can't help himself, but I mean, because of him, he has given me inspiration. But here, my daughter, uh, she's my first guest, and I'm so very happy for that.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Um, so, I, I don't know if I have any, let's see. So chemical, let me just throw this up here for you. I don't know anything about this. Marshall Martin or Martin Marshall chemicals drift northward as well, which will cause vitamin levels to be depleted and also cause hormone levels to drop. Well, that's something I never heard of before, but
Oh, oh.
okay, thank you.
I do see a question from
Okay,
Paul that I would like to answer.
do you know how to put it up there? You just tap on
I'm
it.
pretty smart. I think I
I,
can figure it out.
I'll let you do that if you wanna.
This guy. So, does temp, i.e., warmer climates, help? Yes and no. Um, uh, Part of MS involves the swelling of the spinal column as a uh, it, exacerbator. It exacerbates.
Yeah, good.
So if I get too hot, and which immediately, like, I always have to protect my right here from getting too hot. As soon as that overheats, I could be inside a, like a gymnasium full of people in the middle of the wintertime, and it's gonna make things act up. Um, so temperature is is kind of a touchy issue for me. If I could live in a place where it was between, 55 to 80 degrees all the time, uh, Fahrenheit, um, that would
I,
be ideal.
I think that's Cromwell, isn't it, Paul?
Cromwell?
That's where he lives in the UK.
Oh,
Scotland was nice. Would
Scotland is
Scotland
nice.
be?
Well, except for the 92-degree days that
That
we
we didn't.
had.
He does say Cornwall. Yeah.
Cornwall, not
Yeah.
Cromwell.
What did I say?
Cromwell.
What did I say?
Cromwell.
Did I say that?
Cornwall.
Did I
Yes,
say
you did.
Cromwell? Oh
Hmm.
God,
Uh,
that's so
yeah.
funny.
I mean, Scotland would be a nice place, but there's no way I could do it because then I'm away from my family, and uh, I have found ways to uh, deal with the temperature on super humid days. It's called the air conditioning. So I stay
Have you
in the
ever
air
tried that
conditioning.
neck thing, that air conditioner unit that you put around your neck? Have you ever seen it?
No, I have coolie towels, which are used by golfers and athletes, where you wet it, snap it, and it activates some cells. And you just kind of wrap it around your neck um, on really hot days. And as long as this part of my body stays cool, I'm pretty okay. It's just being aware of as soon as I start to feel the overheating to get into a cooler location. And Scotland is bloody freezing, says Paul. Yes, I was there in March. My first times that I visited Scotland, Paul. And I was staying in a friend's flat with them that was probably 700 years old off of Quinn Street.
In Edinburgh?
Quinn Street, yes, in Edinburgh.
In,
And I
in
kept
the
asking people where Quinn Street was, and they didn't know because it was Queen Street, Queen, um,
to you,
to me.
right?
But they were all saying, "Oh, it's just on Quinn Street. You get.
So just
So
a little
yes, it
side.
is. It is very cold in
So
the
a side
wintertime
note.
in
Um, s-
Scotland.
a side note. So I at one time brought up the event when we were all together in Scotland when we were in a taxi cab in Glasgow. Remember that? Remember the
Glasgow, yes,
taxi cab driver?
yes.
And I was going, "What the is he
Mm-mm,
saying?
mm-mm,
Don't know."
mm-mm.
We didn't know what he said.
We didn't know, so we just kept laughing, hoping
We
he
just
wasn't
kept laughing and kept on
planning
saying,
on
okay.
murdering us.
He could have said, I'm going to murder you all in about 5 days and taking you away. You'll never, your family
Yes.
won't see you anymore. I'm going, okay, that sounds like a
Okay.
good idea, because we
Yes.
didn't know. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, hi, Mary. And so she says, hi, Tanya. Yeah.
So if anybody else has questions that they'd like to
Yeah.
to ask, let me know. If you're okay with it, Mom, I might just continue to talk about how
Yes.
I um, deal with symptoms, how what I do with that is in my power to try to keep it away, keep it
Yep.
calm. Um, Meditation is a huge thing, and that is something that I had tried long, long ago. And you know, I have to say that as terrible as the pandemic was to the planet, um, it benefited a lot of us with chronic illness in a profound way, in that we were able to access things like um, live streamed meditation, live streamed yoga sessions. Um, I could meet with my doctor on my cell phone instead of on a day when I was feeling like I could hardly even walk, let alone drive, have to drive and explain to them what my symptoms were. So it was during that time that I discovered um, a yoga program that I still follow today. It's called Yoga by Adrienne. And her dog is always in her yoga studio with her. She does sessions from as long as, or short as 10 minutes to an hour long. And her library is so vast that I can literally go in and say, um, I'm thinking, I just need a quick pep up, or my lower back is hurting, or I don't really want to do a lot of uh, exercising work. I'm too weak, but I need a little bit of a pep. And she pretty much has all that. So, um, yoga, meditation are the biggest thing. And then I started doing a lot of reading.
What
Um,
kind of reading?
um, I read a book that had been sitting in my house for almost 15 years. I started reading it at 15 years ago, and it didn't resonate with me. It was a bunch of woo 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 stuff,
Bunch of woo
and
woo?
a woo woo
Woo woo.
woo woo, and not good woo woo. I just thought it was
Stupid.
yes, uh,
Okay. Didn't pertain.
fantastical. It
Yeah.
just didn't resonate.
Yeah.
And while I was in the midst of a full-on flare this past summer, um, I was meditating and was in the room where I had kind of set aside for meditation and yoga. And when I turned my head to get up and I looked at my bookshelf, there's this book sitting there that's been there forever. And it it was like it wanted to jump off the shelf at me. And it's called The Top 10 Things That Dead People Want to Say to You, Top 10 Things That Dead People Want to Tell You, by Mike Dooley. And I digested that thing in a day. I read the whole thing in a day, where I couldn't even get through one chapter 15 years ago. And that really resonated. I then started to read one of the books by Esther. and I can't think of her husband's name, Esther Hicks and Abraham,
Mhm.
her source,
Yep.
um, and have really just come to a lot of peace and have been able to get the confirmation and justification, not justification, but the confirmation that the thoughts I've always had
Uh-huh.
about following my beliefs, following what my spirit is saying to me, following what my heart is saying to me
Mhm.
is the way to go. And it's not always going to be the path that other people think I should be on or
It's not
believe
always
in.
an easy path either, is it?
And it's very rarely going to be an easy one,
But
nor is it
it's most rewarding, don't you think?
right, yes. And it's not the traditional one. It's not go to school and get a 4-year
No.
degree
Uh-uh.
and hang your diploma on the wall, and you'll make all of us proud, even though you're broke and you can't get a job in your arena but you did make us proud because you went to college and you got a really good GPA and spent a lot of money. Yay, you.
Yay.
And then go and work in an industry that means nothing to you, that sucks you dry emotionally, physically, and coming to even realize that that's what I was doing didn't really occur until I started reading these books and delving more and more into the
Metaphysical
uh,
world. No.
metaphysical world, but more so the true the inner self is not going to lie to you, and
Right.
listening to it.
Right.
You're going to lie to you a lot,
Right. So
um,
I'm just going
but
to put up
knowing
what
the difference is an important
I know. I
thing.
mean, so, and Paul's mentioning meditation and specific sounds help so much. And yes, I, I think that if you don't meditate, if you don't aren't quiet, if you don't quiet yourself, you're not going to find out anything about yourself. Don't you agree? Or
I do agree. I do also feel that, and I don't want to scare anybody, but if you've been in a situation as I had been for the majority of my life where I didn't listen to myself
right,
ever, I didn't trust myself. I had been trained to not trust my own thoughts, and I was drinking that Kool-Aid for the first 42 years of my life, I'm going to say. And little by little, as I I entered into a very healthy relationship, partnership, as I found others who had experienced similar things. But more than anything, as I read and I really sat with the information and was quiet with it, um, I realized that sometimes meditation is scary because if you are for the very first time hearing your inner voice that you've been ignoring for 3 decades, um, I wouldn't say scary so much as it's extremely emotional, um, and it's transformative. But I personally went through a bit of an identity crisis where it was for me. I realized I, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know who I was, and I had been pretending to be the perfect daughter, pretending to be the perfect employee, pretending to be the perfect homeowner, pretending to be, all of the perfect things, or putting on those roles and tamping down the voice that was in there saying you don't have to be perfect and you don't
But you
have
already are perfect, by the way. I mean, you were already
you don't have
perfect,
to be
but
perfect according to anyone else's
whatever that is, yeah.
determination of what perfection is. And um, once I really accepted that and kind of said, you know what, to those voices and those naysayers, and let go of some very long lasting relationships that I realized were super toxic.
There you go.
I found a lightness come over me. And when I really am honest and tap into that, that lightness is with me all the time. And it helps me in moments of profound anxiety, of profound sickness, or frustration with the disease. Um, but the biggest thing for me beyond medication, beyond um, therapy, any of that, well, like I meant physical therapy. I still think that um, mental health is super important. Um, but for me, it was getting my mental health in check and
Mm-hmm.
being honest with myself, and then having to share with people that I'm close with truths that maybe surprised them because they didn't ever see that or know it. And I just had to allow my reality, my me, to permeate and accept that some people were going to leave. Some people would
Right.
leave, some people would stay,
Stay.
and new people would come in.
Right.
And that's the thing that's really happened is
And they're the right people.
the right people. Yep.
The right people, and you're attracting the right people because you're not uh, bringing in the negative. Erin is asking, how do you in particular make meditation and self-reflection a regular part of your day? That's a good question. Is it something you make sure you do at XYZ time based on your daily schedule? How do you make it a routine? I just feel busy all the time, even though I probably do have free time. How do you make it so it's not an additional task each day?
Uh,
Question.
that's
That's
an
a loaded
excellent
question.
question, Aaron. So I actually was listening to one of my um, streams that I do of Esther Hicks in the morning this week, and she was confessing that she had turned to her husband and said, I just don't have time for meditation, which is the number one thing you need to be doing. Number one. And then, both she and her husband laughed, like that's the most ridiculous thing. And it really struck a chord with me because I, for the last month, have failed to be consistent with my meditation. So, um, lately, Erin, I have not made it a regular part of my day. However, what I had been doing, which had been working wonderfully, was I had a post-it note that I taped to the side of my mirror, a long one, and it was my daily schedule from the moment I woke up. So let's say 5 a.m. Get up, feed dogs, start coffee, clean up, bloop, clean up the kitchen, and then by 6 o'clock on my schedule, it was meditate and yoga. And I had alarms set on my phone for each incremental part to match what was on my written schedule. So I didn't have an excuse to be like, oh, I forgot, or I didn't look at the written out schedule. My phone was going to go off no matter what. And it was going to remind me, you didn't do your meditation. You didn't do your yoga. You,
Ooh, it sounds like you're living with your mom.
I am living with my mom every day. I look in the mirror and I say, well, hello, Faye.
Oh,
How are
hello,
you
Faye.
doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Hello.
yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. So really and truly, Erin, I didn't download an app. I didn't, do any of that weird. I mean, I'm not going to spend money doing something as a pretty organized human being. It was like, okay, I need to hold myself accountable. That I need to hold myself accountable. And there are times where I even say to Trevor, okay, I promised myself I'm going to do this week. I need you, please, to hold me accountable if I'm not holding myself accountable. So, it just depends on your personality. I think, Erin, you and I are a lot alike. And I think that just having a written reminder where, when you're putting your face on in the morning, you can't help but see that promise you made to yourself written out in the mirror. And then having those reminders on your phone. And don't use alarms that are terrifying or sound like the nuclear, fallout shelter. I use happy little, you know, birds and buzzing kind of, sounds that actually make me feel good to remind
Mhm.
myself that I'm about to do something for myself to make myself feel even better. That's how I do it.
Very good question. And it just kind of shows you this is about the life and story of Miss Tanya, who is dealing with multiple sclerosis. This is my daughter, Tanya, my first guest on my show. I'm very proud of having her, and I'm proud that she is my daughter. And Erin, thank you for asking that question.
Oh, and you're welcome, Erin.
Oh, and she says thank you. That
She
was
thanks
very
us
thoughtful.
already.
So I was going to go through my questions and say we're very close to the end of the show.
Oh,
I
shoot.
I wonder if I'm past it. I don't even know. I started at 4, but uh, so Dawn says that she goes into meditation state mid conversation with some people. Well, there's that
And
too.
actually, Dawn, I just watched something uh, where it's a bunch of artists. I'm doing some art uh, therapy myself, and they confess that there are times where, when they're in a really boring meeting with a client, with their eyes open, they'll just kind of go into a little bit of meditation. Just
That's
some
cool.
mantra, just repeating a mantra or something. If you're wanting to throttle the person on the other side of the desk, or you just need a quick touchstone to get yourself back on task or back grounded, um, they're not going to know you're meditating unless you cross your legs and, shut your eyes and start
Right. And go,
saying om.
right.
But I think it can be done. Uh, you can do it even if you need a little calming when you're driving. Just to say if you have a mantra that calms you, that something like I am here is my biggest one, to bring myself back into the present. Um, and this is me. So those are my two mantras that I say, not the I am abundant. I know they're great, and Paul's probably going to pine on that, but it's for me the most fundamental thing is for me to remind myself I am here. This is me, and that to me means this is me right now, right here. This is me, and that can be meditation. Just saying some mantras in your head.
So can you believe it's almost been an hour and a half?
Really?
Yeah,
Holy buckets! I almost said something.
I know you did. Be
Arr.
careful. That's all right. So I don't know. Let me see if I have a question. So what I have one question. What inspires you? Um, how do you stay
Don't
light?
ask me sane.
No, I'm not going to ask that question.
um,
But how do you stay inspired? Um, we've gone through a bunch of stuff in our lives, and so, and I've watched you grow, and I've watched you, move through this stuff so beautifully. And I wanted you to be on the show so that you could kind of be an example of, there's more to life than, your
work.
faced work, that you've faced this reality of what's going on, but yet it doesn't hold you back. And I like one of the ads that MS has. This is that MS does not define me. So
And
you're
I
not
am not MS.
right.
That is one thing. Um, I think people who don't have chronic diseases think that those of us who have them, that we wake up every morning and we're like, good morning, I have MS, time to go have coffee. Unless it's being a jerk, MS, that's what I mean. I forget I have MS. I don't think about it. I don't, and the less time I spend thinking about it, the better I feel. So you need to find those healthy distractions, and mine has been and always will be art.
Mhm.
Creating it specifically. I go into a form of meditation because I am completely tapped into my right brain when I'm doing my art. Genuinely, I am not thinking. I lose all sense of time. um I am My breathing slows to a healthy level. I am absent of negative thoughts because I am 100% present. I am doing what all of the meditative gurus want you to be doing when you're meditating. Um, and that is my solace. It always has been. It has been my escape since I have my first memories of being with you, Mom, when you were teaching me how to draw a horse in our kitchen in the first house I ever lived in with you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I wasn't even 5 yet. And that's one of my first memories of you drawing a horse for me. And something in me has always just found great comfort in creating art. I love looking at it,
Yeah,
but
and I
I
love.
prefer to create it.
Okay, we got 5 minutes left. I guess I have a co-producer here saying, I think we should probably say thank you for being here. And
Yes. And thank you. I see quite a few of my personal friends that have shown up here.
yes,
And I greatly appreciate you being here. Uh, Tegan, if you're still here, I can't even tell you how much that meant to me to
mhm.
see that you joined us. And Aaron, I really am glad that you showed up. I don't feel that my message is specifically geared towards someone who has an autoimmune disease. I
No,
really feel that more than anything, it comes down to your mental health. And um, you need to honor your mental health before you honor anything else. And in doing so, the rest of your life will positively flow. So take that if that's the one nugget you need. Um, Mental health, find the thing that makes you happy and don't ever apologize about it. Don't let someone tell you it's impossible.
I want to thank you for being on my show tonight. And I want to thank everybody who has joined in and joined in the chat and has some fabulous questions and have their only and I because we've seen your chats. Wasn't able to put everybody's up there, but we've seen them. I know that Tanya's seen them too. I just want to give you a little. I'm going to say that my next week's show is. I've got a guest already lined up. I think you guys are going to like her. She happens to be ended up being a friend of mine through the network that we were on. Her name is Michelle Desrochers. She has, I couldn't believe that she said yes when I kind of posted that I'm doing Faye's Angels. She said, "Congratulations, Faye." And she, at the time, we were in this network, but it didn't work for us. So, but it doesn't mean you don't keep friends, you know? It means that we just added more friends to our list of friends. And I'll be putting up promotions for the show. It'll be next week at 4 o'clock Central Time. In the meantime, Tanya, it's good to have you here with me tonight. Thank you for doing that, dear, and sharing your
Absolutely.
story, and being brave as always. I know you were a little nervous going into the show, but you did a beautiful job of
Thank you.
explaining it and being transparent about what you do. And I think it's
And
helpful to everyone.
I just want to say to everybody, be brave every
Yeah.
day.
Yes.
Um, and if that means that your bravery is to make the GD bed that morning, okay, be brave, make the bed, make it the best, make that bed the best you've ever made it before. But be brave and don't ever limit yourself. Don't ever let anyone else limit you. They can't.
Only you can.
Only you can limit yourself. Don't do that to yourself.
Oh,
It is you are limitless. You are boundless.
thank you, honey. With
Yep.
that, I want to say goodbye. Blessings to all my angels. Thank you, darling. Oh, and Maria, thank you. Oh, Maria, I want to just put her little message up. They're not little. It was great. Great job on the first show. Can't wait to meet Tanya. I can't wait for you guys to meet either. You guys, I know we'll connect. And yes. So, without further ado, goodbye, everybody. Blessings to all. Make each day the best you can make it. Make it, make it. Be brave. As Tanya says, be brave. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining us today.